When we start listening to the sound, does it become louder?
When we start listening to the sound, does it become louder? Yes, it does. It depends on which sound we are talking of. When we do the meditation of the sound, which means listening to the sound of ourself, not listening to any sound, listening to the sound of ourself, which is distinguished from all other sounds. We can hear sounds of outside sounds we are hearing now. Varanatmak shabd, spoken words, are also sound. You are listening to me right now. I am listening to you. I just listened to Jonathan reading the question. The power of listening does not belong to the ears. It belongs to the soul. We will keep on listening all the time, even when there is no space or time to listen. Listening is a very powerful thing. If you ask me a secret thing about how one can have the best meditation, how can one become an expert in meditation, my simple answer will be, become a good listener, the best listener you can be. Listen to everything with attention, because when you start listening, the capacity to listen increases. You are also then capable of listening to your own self in meditation. When we do meditation and want to listen, and we don't have enough practice, the first practice is that when we are repeating words of the mantra or simran we have been given by a master, and that's one purpose of giving words to repeat, with the mind, not with the tongue. People who sing loudly, chant loudly with the tongue are not pulling their attention inside at all. They may get peace of mind, they may enjoy the song, they may enjoy the words, but that is not an exercise for pulling attention inside. Only when you listen with and speak with the mind and listen with the soul, your attention is pulled in. What does it mean, speaking with the mind and not with the tongue? It means that you have to replace thoughts. When you think, your tongue doesn't move. Words are still there in your head. Those words that are in your head are the words of thought. You listen to those thoughts, you listen to those words, but no tongue is involved. When we try to repeat words taught to us, you will notice that we try to speak with our tongue. Sometimes when we try very hard to start speaking with our mind, tongue still moves a little bit. It takes a while to only speak with the mind and listen. That's the proper listening even of the words. Speaking with the tongue does not have any real value in real meditation. Our Saint Kabir has said, Mala to kar mein phire, jeeb phire mukh maahe, manwa to chahu dish phire, ye to simran nahi. If you are holding the beads in your hand and moving them, tongue is repeating the words of mantras, mind is roaming around all over the world, this is not called simran. Don't think you are doing simran at all. That is why there is a stage by which we go and become proper listeners of the sound within. Listening outside, we become listeners. Listening with attention makes us better listeners. Then when we close our eyes and we don't hear any sounds, we generate the sound of repetition of the words. Repetition of words helps us in many ways, including the fact that we become good listeners. So when we start listening to the words, the sounds come automatic. If we merely repeat the word, sound does not come. If we listen to the words, sound comes. It's the listening capacity that has to be awakened and developed. That happens automatically when you are putting attention on listening. Listen very attentively. And what are the parameters for doing that? One, do not repeat too fast. Rapid repetition of any kind of mantra is like a parrot repeating it. No value. Very slowly. Because when you repeat slowly, you can listen to every part of every word. Then, if the word has more than one syllable, listen to each syllable. That means you are involved. Your attention is involved in listening. You become good listeners. If you do that, I can assure you, you will be able to listen other sounds in the head automatically. People have said, we have been meditating for a long time, never heard any sound. But you didn't develop listening. You are trying to listen to something with your mind speaking, and your mind is somewhere else. You're thinking of something else. That's not listening. Put attention on the words and become listeners. When that happens, different sounds can be heard which are not coming through the ears. They are internal sounds. But those sounds come from various directions. Sometimes looks the sound is coming from the right side, some sounds are coming from the left side, and you are trying to listen, which one should I listen? So, masters say, you should listen on the right side. That is Dayal speaking. Don't listen to the left side, that's Kal speaking. I've heard people explain this to me. I think all outside sound, whether right or left, are Kal speaking. Dayal speaks from the center. Dayal speaks where he sits in our soul, not in the body, not in the ears, not on the sides. But when you are listening, to practice listening to wherever the sound comes from, just to practice. These are practice sounds that come from the sides. And they can be very different kinds of sounds. The sounds can be like blowing of whistles. Sound can be when a train comes to a covered platform of a station, there is an echo of it. That echo comes inside. There are sometimes like chirping of birds. The birds are chirping. Sometimes the crickets are chirping. Sometimes little bells are ringing. All kinds of sound, like thunder sometimes, drums beating. People have heard different kinds of sounds. They are all being generated within the system, most of them with physical reasons of the anatomy of the body. But some of them are coming even from the astral sensory self. We don't know which ones are those, but they are not the sounds of the self. The sounds of the self are from the center of the head. They can look like they are behind the eyes and above the eyes. Why? Because when we have our astral self inside, which means when we imagine we are sitting inside the head, we start imagining, but we still have the same vertical shape that we have outside. So the imagination brings us to the same vertical shape inside. Even when we say we want to sit behind the eyes, we don't reduce ourselves to a dot, we are still the same, and therefore our self feels like it is sitting in the center behind the eyes and upwards like this. Therefore, the sound that starts coming from here is not easily heard because we are so much used to listening with ears. So we are constantly listening from the sides. But the listening from the here will come when we try to put our attention on the center. That means don't move towards any sound. When you try to catch a sound, the attention moves that way, that you don't hear the sound from the center. You move right or left. Why the masters have recommended that if you hear sound from both sides, listen to the right, is simply the functioning of our brain is such that one side is more intuitive, other side is more rational. Intuitive power comes from the soul, rational power comes from the mind. Therefore, they have suggested, if the sound comes from both sides, prefer the right. It's merely a suggestion. It does not make the sound right. I have met my friends who spent 20 years listening to the sound from the right. And that's all they got. Listening sound from the right. I said, did you see anything? Did you feel that you're vacating the body and going somewhere? No. But I'm listening to the sound. But that is not the objective of meditation, to just listen to the sound. Objective is to withdraw your attention to yourself. Therefore, what actually happens, these sounds, when you listen to them, naturally you put attention, they become louder. Any sound can become louder. Even outside sounds. You go to an orchestra and there are different musical instruments playing. You like the drums more. Put your attention on the drums. Drums will become louder. The others will become dimmer. Nothing has changed there. Your attention can make anything louder. Similarly, the sounds inside, when you put attention, become louder. The sound of the self, which we do not come to because we are used to listening to the ears and are scattered all over, takes time. And to start with is a very dim, feeble sound at a distance. It looks like far away something resembling a bell sound. Far away. So when you say far away, then you play a game of shifting your attention from one sound to another. Play with the sounds. Now you can play with this sound, now with that one, now with this near one, now farther one. If you do that, and don't stick to what is happening and just sit there, you play with your attention. You put your attention on the weak sound coming from far. And that weak sound also starts becoming louder with your attention. Ultimately, it becomes the loudest sound, and other sounds are becoming so dim, you don't even hear them. This sound, to start with, is like the ringing of a big bell. Big bells ring, dong, 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 with all that beat in it. As you listen to it and become louder, the dong increases in length. Dong. They were shorter, become longer. Ultimately, it only becomes one long peal. And there is no beat in it. At that stage, you will find that you are being pulled completely by the sound very rapidly. It's the fastest way to pull your attention from the physical to the astral. And I don't recommend that. I don't recommend that you should listen at that rate that you're suddenly pulled, because it frightens. It frightens us, because the experience is like dying. I remember my own dad telling me, he was also initiated by a great master, and he was very keen on it, and he practiced meditation rather seriously and too much. So when he heard the sound, and the sound pulled him, he was almost being pulled out of his body. And he said, I'm dying. What kind of meditation has this master taught me? He said, never again, never again. I am not going to commit suicide. And this is a way to commit suicide, what he told me. And he stopped meditation and went back and told the great master, Master, what you taught me is killing myself. That's not the spiritual way I thought you'd be teaching me. Great master said, let me tell you some statistical fact. People can die anytime. People can die while having a cup of tea. People have been talking in the middle of the talk, they have dropped dead. Isn't it strange that nobody has ever died, ever, while hearing the sound inside? Why are you afraid? Doesn't the statistics help you that nobody ever died and you will not die? He said, I am still afraid. He said, okay, supposing you die, what do you expect? He said, I hope you will be there. He said, I will certainly be there. That's our deal in initiation. Then he said, take it easy. You don't have to rush through this process. Don't forget, this moment in your life has not come at a particular time in this life. It has come after several thousand lives. You have spent millions of years already before you got this opportunity. So there's no rush about it. It takes a year, takes 2 years, takes 5 years, take a lifetime. It's very fast. Don't worry about it. But go, what he called in his words, darja ba darja, stage by stage, step by step, slowly. If you hear the sound, you pulled a little, good. Next day, little more. Then third day, little more. There is no fear. Then you realize what is happening. And you get accustomed to it. We can adapt to anything. So this adaptation is necessary if you are listening to the sound. But certainly, what makes the sound loud is your attention on it. And when you place attention on the inner sound, it will become loud.